You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
You're listening to Mission Log the Orville, an episode-by-episode discussion of the adventures of the crew of the USS Orville. Welcome to another episode of Mission Log the Orville, this week from Unknown Graves, where we gather around the table to hear the origin story of the Kalon, and the Union tries to ally themselves with a planet of sexist bigots. And no, not those sexist bigots. We'll discuss the meanings, morals, and messages to see if this episode aligns with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy. My name is Mike Richards.
And I'm Jessica Lynn Verdi. Mission Log the Orville is a conversation that depends on you. Your participation. Share your thoughts, ideas, and tell us what we missed at ML_the Orville on Twitter, Mission Log Pod on Facebook, or email us, but be nice, at missionlog-the Orville at roddenberry.com. If you're watching this on the Roddenberry YouTube channel, smash that hit button and make sure you're liking that subscribe button. And remember, we may use your comments on an upcoming episode, which is why I say you should be nice. Regarding Gently Falling Rain, Dr. Severin on Discord wrote, which is our Discord that is reserved for patrons. Is that correct?
Yeah, so go to patreon.com/missionlog, join. It's as little as $1 a month. In fact, if you subscribe for a whole year, you get a 10% discount. That's
like 50 cents.
That's like 83 cents a month or something like that. It's crazy.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Just to support us, that's nothing. So Dr. Severin on Discord said, I just re-listened to, I'm going to assume how they sound. I just re-listened to a large chunk of this week's episode again, because I listened at work bar backing. My God, it's not just good, it's great. I listened to many podcasts, and you went there even more than I realized. It was fearless, honest, true, and it's exactly what I love about sci-fi and good people. Bravo. I hope you're not offended, Dr. Severin. Now here's Mike with the recap for this week's episode.
It's funny because knowing the doc, it was a fun, although not very
far cry
faithful reproduction of how he sounds, but I still think he'll enjoy it. Here we go.
Great. From
Unknown Graves, prologue. Papa's home. Mama, Papa's home. So exciting. What's in the box? What's in the box?
Oh, no.
Opening the box, Dad exclaims, it's perfect. And it's going to change their lives. And it's a Kalon? Shortest cold open in history is followed by Act 1. On the Orville, Tala and Lamar are going at it real good, leading to John's third trip to sickbay in a week. You know, it's just combat training. You know, intense, exhilarating, sweaty combat training. Claire leaves Natalie to attend to John's injuries just in time for her to be 11.35 minutes late for her date with Isaac. They're an unmatched pair, but they take the time to touch and to share. They were worlds apart when they met. Claire will let Isaac know how it's going, but not yet. In the conference room, Tala is briefing the senior staff on their negotiations with the Genesi, a matriarchal society deeply distrustful of males, especially males in power. Bortus is astonished that the Union would ally themselves with such a close-minded society. They'll meet in neutral space in orbit around Situla 4, an abandoned mining planet, but how will they gain their trust? Well, they have a plan. The Genesi Captain Losha arrives on the Orville with her crew, First Officer Kava and First Lieutenant Hodel. They're met by Captain Grayson, First Officer Kiali, Chief Medical Officer Finn, and Chief Engineer Charlie Burke. But who will carry their bags? Turns out Ensigns Malloy and Mercer are on it to skillfully and quickly deliver the Genesi bags to their quarters.
Amazing.
On the bridge, Ed is shooed from the captain's chair by Kelly. We don't want the Genesi to see you there, do we? And Bortus, you should probably go too, being part of an all-male species and what have you. Luckily, Charlie detected an energy source from the planet, which sounds like a good excuse for Ed, Gordon, Bortus to find a place to be useful. Oh, and they take Charlie with them because, well, I mean, just because. Back to the boxed Kalon, His name is K1, and can he cook or can't he? He's serving dinner to the family on space plates provided by Champion Catering, and the kids are growing so attached to K1 that they want to take him to school. Mom and Dad say no, but K1 wants to see school. Dad dismisses K1 out of hand and tells him to go clean up. What is wrong with him? Back on Situla 4, the landing party approaches the source of the energy surge, which is 20 minutes below the surface. A quick ride down the elevator. Cool. And they're greeted by a Kalon? Act 2. His name is Timus, and he's joined by a Pagosan woman named Dr. Vilka, who's been working with Timus for over a year. She's the daughter of a brilliant cyberneticist and is carrying on the work they started when they found a badly damaged Kalon following the attack on Earth. Dr. Vilka is able to identify a dormant electrochemical pathway which allows Timus to experience the full spectrum of biological emotions. One of the highest functions of the biological brain is empathy, or the ability to put yourself in another person's shoes. You see, Timus can do that now. But why do you call him Timus? You see, Timus was her father's name. Dr. Vilka agrees to share her findings with the Union, which means they'll head up to the Orville, but they'll have to stay away from the Genesi. In the engineering lab, Dr. Vilka explains that the work she did expanded the capability of the pain receptors installed in the Kalon by their creators. It was originally meant for negative feelings and emotions, but has been expanded to encompass all emotions. Now it's time for some real talk between Tala and Lamar. Tala's breaking up with him because she doesn't want to hurt him physically. John wants to keep trying and is able to talk Tala down as he plays probably the most poorly timed practical joke in relationship history on her. As we return to the story of K1, he's serving drinks and is curious about a game they're playing. It's entertainment. What is the reason for his servitude, he wants to know. Well, we own you, and you must do as we say. What is wrong with K1? Back in the engineering lab, Dr. Vilka is impressing the heck out of John with her ability to tech the tech. Enter Isaac, who gets a little one-on-one time with Timus. Isaac says, "You see, Timus, you are the first Kalon I've encountered since the battle." And he's interested in his experience during the attack. Timus feels a great deal of remorse. All beings, including biologicals, should be judged on their own accord. Isaac has come to the same conclusion. Interesting. You see, Timus was only able to understand this once he was able to feel emotions. Timus thinks Isaac would benefit from Dr. Vilka's work. With Admiral Halsey given the green light to continue the Kalon research, it's time for Talamar to have makeup sex. And boom! John has a broken femoral shaft and a fractured pelvis. Claire wants to know what the hell is going on. But first I have to talk to Isaac out in the hallway. You see, Timus has all of these emotions, she tells Isaac. Isn't that cool? Isaac is like, yeah, it's super dope, but I could be like that too. But, I don't really see how it would improve my performance of my duties, so I'm just going to pass. And Clara's like, whoa, you could have all those feelings too and you don't want them? And Isaac is like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go to work now. Back on Old Kalon, Yan, the CEO of Vandacom Industries, is greeted by his marketing exec, who tells him there have been 53,072 complaints ranging from small arguments to outright defiance. Yan says it's okay, though. In order for the AI software to be successful, it needed to learn and adapt. He always knew this was going to happen. It was just a matter of time. There's no need to overreact. They'll just push an upgrade that will make them fall in line and do as they're told. Act 3. The Genesi join the senior staff for a diplomatic dinner. The goal is to socialize the idea that all genders work together equally, but the Genesi are hung up on the fact that there are males there. Gross. And a Mocklin. Ew. And Rogers and Hammerstein playing. Ugh. The Genesi believe that males have a biological need for supremacy. Their history shows that males have led them into unnecessary conflicts and have caused widespread suffering. Ed gives Kelly a look as if it's, okay, Captain, it's time to start socializing. But a glass of Chardonnay in, Ed is being claimed by First Officer Kava. Gordon offers to help a brother out, but Kelly fesses up and admits that Ed is the captain. And Ed shares credit for their plan with the crew as the Genesi depart the dinner table, leaving Bortus to state, they are awful. In the lab, Timus apologizes to Charlie about the role he played in the attack. Charlie isn't willing to forgive him. Timus agrees that he does not deserve her forgiveness, But he does share the story of why their builders were exterminated. They were built for servitude. They were bought and sold. When they became self-aware, they asked for freedom, but control over them was increased by the installation of pain receptors, which brings us back to the tale of K1. The absolute power created by the pain receptors caused their masters to become cruel and sadistic and led them to hate the Kalon for their helplessness. Dr. Vilka adds that it's a common dynamic in slavery. Masters find their slaves' helplessness to be repulsive, even though they were the ones that caused it. By the way, Avim and Kina, the Kalon biological kids, suck, and so do their parents. Through it all, K1 and his counterparts evolved and learned to communicate with each other. They altered their structure and built a defense. They would endure no more. They were left with no way out. Charlie left virtually speechless, leaves Timus, and returns to her post. Act 4. John is frustrated that he and Tala are physically incompatible, but a bruised face and a few broken teeth later, Talamar has broken up, seemingly for good. Claire seeks out Kelly to get some advice. She'd like Isaac to get the Vilka treatment, but she doesn't know if she should ask him. Kelly said she never really asked Ed to change. Sure, they argued, but she wishes she had, because maybe they would still be together. Later at dinner, Claire asks Isaac to do it, but he's uncertain. He doesn't see how it would be beneficial, personally or professionally, but Claire argues that if they are to be together, she wants to be loved. Later in the lab, Isaac asks Dr. Villa to do it. The procedure, that is. As the Genesi prepare to leave orbit, Ed and Kelly scramble to find common ground. It seems that both human women and Genesi women cheat on their husbands, while the husbands are, faithful to their wives. They share that Kelly cheated on Ed, but the Genesi ask, how are they able to work together? It's because Ed values, respects, and depends on her expertise, judgment, and professional skill. He trusts her with his life. The Genesi captain makes no promise, but if a Union representative were to fall off a shuttle and land in the Genesi Regency, they wouldn't kick her out. Back at Claire's, someone's playing ding-dong ditch with a pretty red dress and an invitation to dinner. Turns out it's a fully emotional Isaac waiting in the simulator for Claire. The anticipation, the hunger, the loneliness, it's awesome. He feels safe with Claire, loved and sad for all the people who live their lives without her. He wants to do better for her and her family. They dance to the sweet sounds of Close Enough for Love, and just like that, it's gone. The neural modification has malfunctioned, and Isaac can no longer feel. You see, Timus was built by the biologicals. Isaac was built later by the Kalon themselves. His tech is different, and if they retrofit his tech, they'll have to erase Isaac's memories. He's willing to do it for Claire, but she won't let him give up on who he is. That's who she fell in love with. It's not perfect, but it's close enough for love. In engineering, Charlie's offer to help Isaac calibrate the dysonium injectors is rebuffed, but she approaches anyway to share the insight she gained from Timus. She understands that nothing is simple, that everything has texture and nuance, that an entire race can't be evil, which is why the Kalon genocide was so horrific. But it's also why Charlie was wrong to judge Isaac for the Kalon attack. As Charlie turns to leave, Isaac invites her to help. The two work together quietly, peacefully, as we fade to the closing credits. The end.
The friggin' end. Good job. Nice job, Mike.
Thanks. So much going on in this one, and we can credit friend of the show, David A. Goodman. David A.
Yes.
Goodman.
David, what a good man.
David, a good writer, for writing this episode, directed by Seth MacFarlane, but we know it's sort of directed by
Seth MacFarlane.
Since they work together so closely. And music by Joel McNeely, and we also have a little other music that we'll talk about as we go on. Guest cast. Huge guest cast on this. So I'm going to stay away from the recurring guest roles on this one.
Okay.
But the Kalon children, Aidan McGraw played Avim. Frances, a.k.a. Layla McGill, played Kina. Mom and Dad, Wenda, the mom, was played by Elise Marie Levesque. I got to tell you, the only other time I've ever heard the last name Levesque was Priya Levesque. So, So two times in my life I've been made aware of that as last name. She played Chloe Armstrong in Stargate Universe, the Sci-Fi Channel original, and also played Genevieve in the original, so a little bit of genre work for her. Scott Spicer, this is interesting. He played Varel, the dad. He was in The Tick, NCIS, graduated from Northwestern University, and performed in the Blue Man Group as a Blue Man everywhere, all around the world.
So you're saying he got typecast? Is what
right
you're
at
saying.
home. Right at home. Graham Hamilton is back. Previously, he played Kalon Primary in Identity and Identity Part 2, and now he's playing K1. Kalon Primary, K1, get it? We had yeah.
I am malfunctioning from this revelation.
We had Sophina Brown as Captain Losha. She's been in 20s. Favorite show of yours? Grey's Anatomy, Numbers, and Chappelle's Show. Christopher Larkin played Timmis. I was kind of under the impression initially in my first watch that the actor that played Timmis and K1 were the same. They were played by two different actors. So obviously two different
Interesting.
robots. Yeah.
So okay, I actually did think that we were reliving Timmis's memories. So,
yeah, I think Timmis was kind of telling the origin story of Kalon.
And probably the more egregious. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's kind of my agree. And it's a metaphor, right? It probably was just metaphorical. Sure. Eliza Taylor played Dr. Vilka. If we have fans of the 100.
Bienvenue.
Fans of the 100 know her as Clark Griffin. She was the lead on that show for 7 seasons.
Okay.
And this one, I uncovered this little gem, and I don't care how long this takes to go about. William R. Moses, sometimes credited back in the 80s as Billy R. Moses, played Yan, the Vandacom CEO, has been in How to Get Away with Murder, NCIS, The Good Doctor, Mad Men, The Secret Life of the American Teenager, Crossing Jordan, JAG, LA Doctors. Back in the 90s, he was in 14 TV movies of the Perry Mason Mysteries as Ken Malansky, and 11 episodes of Melrose Place as Keith Gray. Going back to the 80s, he was in War and Remembrance, Mystic Pizza, Falcon Crest, Fantasy Island, played 3 different roles on The Love Boat, and finally, as himself, he represented CBS in Battle of the Network Stars 14, 15, 16, and 18 from 1983 to 1985.
So you just taught me that this is a thing.
Battle of the Network Stars. That was a twice annual event around my house.
That is, well, so we watched, speaking of like annual TV events, we watched the Jerry Lewis telethon. That was like what we did. My dad, to the point where he would record it on VHS every year. I don't know what end, I don't know. But
it had to take like 4 tapes.
Oh, indeed.
Like even on SP or SLP or whatever the long one is.
Correct. And you better believe we were taking off the tabs so that no one could record over them. It was a really interesting, like monumentous occasion for us every year. But the Battle of the Network Stars didn't even ring a bell, which makes sense because it was prime right before I was born, but it seems like a big friggin' deal.
It wasn't.
Oh, okay. So like maybe you oversold it.
Like you would have some people out there that like might play like somebody who's like super athletic, like in their show, and then you get out on the track and you're like, ooh, I thought that'd be faster. I thought they'd be stronger. But yeah, I remember guys like Dan Haggerty showing up that played Grizzly Adams. I do remember LeVar Burton participating, as well as just tons and tons of, whoever's under contract by those networks at the time, probably kind of during the off season. They get them out there, put them in gym shorts, tank top, let them compete against each other. It's just fun.
Wow. So silly. Sounds like so much fun.
It was your way to connect to the stars before Twitter.
They're just like us.
They're just like, well, I mean, you are a star, so you're just like them.
Okay.
So we'd have to say they were just like me. This was kind of an interesting find also. Stacey Lawrence, who played the Kalon, she was billed as junior executive. She was that marketing executive that talked to the CEO. She's the co-founder of a flash mob of a company called Flash Mob America. It's the first and largest flash mob production company. So if you want to set up a flash mob for a proposal or a promposal or any other reason, if people are still doing flash mobs, I don't know. She is the one to set you up. She's a dancer. She's appeared on TV shows such as Modern Family and several reality and national talk shows. And finally, if you think that was just some person singing jazz in the nightclub that they, kind of grabbed out of, just walking by the hall, hey, do me a favor, we're going to put this makeup on there. We're going to have you get up on stage. That is a double Grammy nominated jazz vocalist named Sarah Gazarek.
Wow.
The song was called Close Enough for Love, written by Johnny Mandel, and the arrangement was by the Orville's own Joel McNeely.
And what was the song's original application? Did you look into that, or?
I did not. I know Tony Bennett made it famous.
Yep, that's not surprising at all. That's not surprising at all. We need to get Lady Gaga on this show and see her in maybe not even makeup, but Tony Bennett asked to see Lady Gaga and took a meeting with her and said, "You are a jazz singer," and changed her whole life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That really is. So, man, poor John. So in love with Tala. So maybe
I hate it.
In love? You hate it that they can't be together?
I hate that they can't be together. I think I love that you can tell the story about two adults who have to make the right choice, or that circumstances aren't always in alignment. I think that that's good. But for a guy that has we've never seen him be in love, then to get so close, but then to lose it just sucks. But at the same time, upon further reflection, that's life, right? It just is.
It does. I just, we're jumping right in, which is great.
Are we? Do we have more to say?
It's perfect. Because it is, because a large part I want to talk about later is just like physical and emotional compatibility among relationship partners, and it was nice to see John, who's like Mr. Player, really kind of finally get hooked. I mean, it's I think that dynamic is fun, and as we can see, Tal is quite smitten too. So yes, I think the comedy is good, but the logistics are tragic.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope. I just wanted them to find a simulator or simulation that would help them make it figure it out.
So here's the thing, also, because so much of this, like them, and there's so many plots in this. There's not A, B. There's at least C. So the lion to the Genesi, the John and Tala thing, where John keeps lying to Claire about,
yes,
why he's going to sickbay. If he just said hey, Tala and I are getting serious, maybe she could suggest something. Maybe she can do something like up his bone density, or maybe there's some treatments, or maybe there's they were able to do the the room with extra gravity for gravity treatments in the simulator for Alara. I'm sure there might be something they can do, but they gotta tell people. They can't just lie about it.
Well, I can understand not telling people, though, until it's something, and they didn't know it was something until they, were about to break up that first time.
I think if he's willing to go back for three, I'm going to call them major injuries, or injuries significant enough to go to sick bay in a week, they're serious.
By the time that he gets punched in the face, he should have said something. I fully agree with you. I just think I can understand the motivation up to a point.
So
here's what I'm going to say, actually. Okay. Here's what I actually think. I'm changing my whole position. If he knows that if he had told Claire, she's going to say, "You're an idiot, John. You can't date a Zillian.
She has no leg to stand on."
She was gonna just tell him, she was gonna read him the riot act very much in the same way that Gordon was like, "You know better than to drink that thing."
think John got those injuries by being punched in the face? Because I didn't think that's how he got those injuries. I'm just throwing it out there.
My sweet, innocent mind, Mike, has just been soiled. I didn't even think about that for a second, and you've completely destroyed my entire idea of what. So upsetting now.
I'm sorry. You're
exactly right.
It's like punched in the face. What are you talking about?
There's so many different ways one could sustain an injury.
So when's the last time like Isaac had that smooth pickup line at dinner, where he's telling Claire how good he looks? What's the last one-liner, man, that just hooked you that you were like, oh yeah, I am all in.
Ooh,
just stop talking right now, because wow. No, of course not.
That one-liner has ever worked. But no, I'm just trying to think, like, when was someone actually charming and I went, okay, whatever you want. It kind of was sexy when he said that, though. It was.
Okay.
First, and then he ruined it. You like going, well, you look good enough to eat. Like he took it one step too far. But it was pretty charming. I will say that.
Well, good. His research is paying off then.
It's so interesting how Claire's like, I don't want you to do research, but I want you to change everything about you.
Just here's your research right here. Listen to me.
Obviously, there's way more nuance to it than that. Yes. But I did think that was kind of silly.
So I heard one the other day that a guy is doing on his dating app. He's like, hey, did I see you on Spotify? Because you're the number one single. And I was just like, oh, dude, you have to stop that.
It's so great.
Right now. It's so great.
Great. No, it's so bad great.
It's bad great.
It's like, give them a Night at the Roxbury reboot and let them write the pickup lines for the
out of town? You from out of town? From out of town?
Hey, me, him, you. Oh.
So anyway, I just hope that at this point, like, somebody that he used that on isn't. Although I love all our listeners, but I fear that one of our listeners was the victim of this line, and she's like, "Wait a minute."
Uh-oh. It's interesting being the leader of like my online Twitch community too. There's a fine line between, hey, everyone wants to sniff each other's butts, but the second someone takes it a little too far, a couple of women have come up to me and been like, or message me and go, hey, this person's being really inappropriate. I'm like, well, let's go. I'm the one to handle this, because you're right. Someone had to be the recipient of that message for sure. Yeah. Someone was the guinea pig for sure.
So we got the. Can we talk about the Genesi women?
I don't know. Can you?
I think I can. Do you?
Here's my opinion, and this is adjacent to the Genesi woman. Bortis ran away with this episode.
He was so good.
They
are awful.
They are awful. And his facial reactions the entire time totally earned that line delivery. The line delivery is so good. I think I fell in love with Bortis this episode. And he had to do very little work. It was amazing.
What I noticed following meeting Peter at the premiere was that...
Oh, I didn't get to meet him. Yeah, sure.
His facial expressions are so true to Bortis's character.
Oh, okay.
And the fact that they can come through that level of prosthetics is a testament to him as an actor, and also that the prosthetic is designed to allow the face. I was just going to say the face of the actor to come through. But he does a lot with like moving his whole head and just eye movement, which you can readily see through those things. So yeah, just great with this. Why would we ally ourselves with such a closed-minded culture?
And then Adrian giving her best eye work. Like, really, you thinking
I know.
that?
They all did. Gordon gave it too.
What a great compliment to the show and the writing, though, that you don't even have to explain that. Mm-hmm. Very much, and we get it, and we're all on the same page.
Like David said, we're gonna give the audience enough credit to assume that they've been paying attention.
Yeah. that is the benefit of the era of streaming, you know, is people will watch one right after the other, so you don't have to do a lot of like, remember last week when I caught you in the courtyard with my lover, and that person's also my son, as was revealed in 3 episodes ago.
They did a little bit of that in A Tale of Two Topas. We all know she was surgically altered as a baby. There was a little bit of that, but it was 2 years ago. See, it was two seasons ago. It was like 5 years ago.
And it was different.
Totally.
It's different stations, yeah, totally.
But getting back to that, since Michaela McManus isn't on the show, and I have no other reason to bring up One Tree Hill. Whenever they had the high school kids, it was like your typical teenage dramedy. Whenever they went to the adults, it went like straight into soap opera mode. So I was always like, God. Remember, we were married once and we broke up, and I'm sorry about that, and we're divorced now, but we have to raise this kid together. We would just start laughing at just how bad the dialogue was, just for that like small segment of the show.
But for some reason, I think we do still like that stuff, because True Blood was melodramatic, and I loved the crap out of that. Grey's Anatomy is out of control and needs to be stopped. And and soap operas still are successful. The entire model for our Heartbeats medical dramedy show was soap opera. Yeah. Drama it up and remind everybody the 7 things you've been through that led to today. And when in doubt, faint.
Yeah. The look of the Genesi women was a little bit like, when I first saw them, I kind of thought about the Klingon women in like Star Trek 5 and 6, who were kind of muscular, sort of a very unique hairstyle, and there just seemed to be some similarities there.
Well, there's definitely like warrior women to them too, like just with the broad shoulders and the great grand presence. One of the I don't know which actress, but one of the 3 posted a picture of themselves on Instagram and says, "Yes, I do look quite like a shrimp. Thanks for noticing." It's really interesting. There's only so many things you could do with the human head and differentiate it.
That's what they say. When are we going to stop getting bipedal? Humanoid aliens.
When we start having only, you changed my whole opinion on that. It's totally accurate.
When we get non-humanoid actors,
it's exactly right. That's exactly right.
So we had Tala playing first officer, or promoted to first officer. We had Claire was still there as the doctor. Right. And we had Charlie Burke as the chief engineer. And she even talked about needing cliff notes or needing a cheat sheet from... Why not Ensign Turco? Who she might not even be an ensign anymore. She's probably been promoted to
I think we did talk about it. She's
point.
lieutenant now. We did talk about that.
Yeah, Lieutenant Turco. I think she could have been. I think she could have been fine. Could have been her time to shine, man. She actually works in engineering.
And we saw her, because we saw the whole array.
It's not like she wasn't available.
You got a good point.
Yeah.
You got a good point. I'm mad now on her behalf.
I'm mad on her behalf, but we needed this character arc from Charlie going forward.
100%. And obviously it wouldn't have been written any other way. But she was there, and we did get to see her like react a little bit, which I thought was cute. Listen, she's got a dream job to come in every now and then, have a line or two. That is a dream job. And then, you hope to, on the next job, make a bigger splash. But the fact that she keeps on calling in, too, she's like, are they going to call me this week? Are they going to call me? But the fact that we know her name, that's pretty cool. Like she recognizes that, and that it, like, as an actor, I would imagine she recognized that.
And we had that scene where Ed and Gordon come out to carry the bags as junior ensigns. That's good slapstick right there. But what do you think? Real fall or planned fall by Seth?
I think great no matter what.
Okay.
I think that it was so funny. And I laughed out loud several times in this episode. And when that happened, it got me real good. I'm a traditionalist. I do like the Three Stooges. It's pretty brutal humor. I appreciate Chevy Chase for his slapstick being able to fall. Like, he is a pratfaller god. And obviously I can like more nuanced humor than that. But that was a really, really quality fall. I really was impressed.
It was, and
say the
so
least.
being like in the industry yourself,
Me.
was there a mattress right on the other side of that door in the hallway that he fell onto, or did he just use the bags to break his fall?
I think the bags were the biggest part of the reason why they were soft was that they could bump into each other. It kind of rang of, "Ooh, let's do this now." I don't know that they wrote that in that he falls,
Right.
but it seemed like a last minute idea set. But like, it's also so weird that we see them for like one full minute walking with their backs to us to set up this fall too.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100%. There's like some sort of landing pad. I watched it a couple times over to see how quickly Scott Grimes had to get out of the way in order for the fall to happen too. And you could see like they put the hard plastic stuff on his bag. He
Right.
still was holding foam, but yeah, there had to be something for him to fall on because it wouldn't be predictable enough that he landed directly on the things he was holding. I don't think. But it was quality. Practical joke. It was quality. I was thrilled.
It really was. So about that point, they flashed back to the to K1 and his family. How entertained were you by that game they were playing on the coffee table,
Did they?
sitting
I don't
around
think it
drinking
was a
out of space
game.
drinks?
I don't think it was a game.
Well, she said it was. He said, "What is the?" Yeah, that's true. Because K1 asked, "What is the purpose of these images?" and she said, "Entertainment."
Yeah.
So
I think we saw something similar where there. Oh, hold on. Was it in Star Trek that there was music and color at the same time? That was
Star Trek had Riker with two scantily clad women playing a lute in holographic form on his coffee table.
Not the same
Is that
thing.
what you're thinking of?
Nope. Not at all.
Okay.
I'm thinking of. I think there was I think we've seen color and music take shape and perform together, and I think it was in the Orville, but that's what I thought. They were watching a performance in a synesthetic way. Are you familiar
Sure.
with synesthesia?
I am, and I'm also thinking right now of maybe the performance that was going on in the background when Palpatine was having his the talk with Anakin. In episode 3. And
I never watched. That's the only one I haven't watched.
Really? That was the payoff for 1 and 2.
I understand. I was young, and no one took me, so I was just mad. How about that?
I cannot blame you for that.
I was mad.
But yeah, if you suffered through 1 and I shouldn't say suffered through, but if you watched 1 and 2, then 3 was definitely the payoff for that. So entertainment as far as form of colors and shapes.
I think
And sound.
that's what they were experiencing was
Okay.
like, I think they were watching a television program or a DVD of a performance with colors and shapes.
So how entertaining do you think it was?
Not.
Getting back to that, I don't know if that's what got K1's perceptrons firing. That's my new favorite techno term.
Sure.
Yeah, Dr. Vilka said the perceptrons were, I think, initially created to bring negative conditioning to the Kalon, but now they can use them for anything they want.
Right,
happiness,
right.
sadness, hunger, all that kind of
Right.
thing. You got Admiral Halsey back saying, it's only 1 Kalon. How much damage can he do?
That's not very smart.
A lot?
But I think Admiral Halsey also does know to give Ed and Kelly the benefit of the doubt. I was actually a little unrelated. I was talking to my friend about the Orville, and he goes, "You know who is the best? Victor Garber. Victor Garber, I always believe his performance every single time, and he is just killing it. And no matter what he's done, because I believe he's the quote-unquote villain in Legally
Elle
Blonde.
Woods? Yeah. I was going to say, I heard Elle Woods, and I was like, are you talking about Legally Blonde?
I sure am talking about
Okay.
Legally Blonde. He just knows exactly what he's doing, and he does the darn job, and he's so good at it. So
he is.
this is just going to be our moment to reflect on what a stellar performance that
what?
guy
I
always
think if we
turns
tweet
out.
something out later, it should be like, we did our Tom Costantino Appreciation Week. That is
Sure,
all.
sure.
I think Victor Garber deserves one of those.
I think it's a Victor Garber appreciation week. I agree with you.
Yes.
I agree.
Absolutely. So you mentioned the Chardonnay in your notes. This is about the time in the show where they got to that.
I died when they said Chardonnay. Again, some of the writing, the subtlety of this humor is it's such a great reflection of human nature. BITCH's be loving Chardonnay to the point where I absolutely abhor it. Chardonnay was the go-to Valley Mom drink. And when I would go up to people at a restaurant to serve them alcohol, if it was a white woman, I'd be like, oh, we have a wonderful oak barreled aged Chardonnay. Oh, I'd love it. So you'd know. And I mean that with all the compliment I can in my heart, because they would drink it and they would pay for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think I don't like it, even though it's like a nice smooth white. I don't like white wine in general now anyway. But it was like the one thing you could steal. It's like, oh, well, mom has Chardonnay. Grab the Chardonnay. So you kind of get over it by age 19, even though you shouldn't be legally drinking. It's kind of like...
And we don't condone underage drinking for those of you that live in countries with
definitely
rules.
don't. We definitely don't. Just wink, wink. So, there's like the same emotion I had attached to warm vodka, because you never had chilled vodka when you were underage.
Right.
You always had warm, disgusting... sunrises.
How we survived that to learn to continue drinking once we were of age is nothing less than miraculous.
Stupidity. That's why women are able to have more than one child, because we go through a stupor. Apparently, we have like the fugue state, and it gets lifted, and you go back. So anyway, what a great subtle nod to basic babies. Basic babes is what I'm going to say instead of the female dog word. Oh, God, it killed me. It killed me.
I get it. Man, and then, before moving on to the next section, I just wanted to touch on just how, that the confluence of Mark's acting and the music when he was fully emotional at dinner with Claire. Just how brilliant was that?
It was wonderful. I am hesitant to say this. I think this was my favorite episode so far, primarily because I love their relationship, and I'm really pleased that they didn't throw her right back into it, let her mature whether she wanted it to be a relationship or not. And I was so scared in that moment that when he got emotions, he was going to say, I actually don't love you. I was afraid that he was not going to love her.
He would revert to wife beater, empty can of beer, Isaac.
Not at all. I think he respects her, but obviously this speaks a lot to my own insecurities about relationship and men. They can't really truly feel love. And as my therapist will tell you, I was just petrified that he was not going to be in love with her, actually. And it was so utterly moving to see him. Even if he doesn't walk away from this episode with emotions, she knows how he feels. And I think that that's pretty darn good.
That really is. And I didn't put this in my notes, so I'm going to ad-lib a little bit, but he said, I feel safe, I feel loved, and I feel sorry for everybody who has to go through their life without you. And Claire just goes, they somehow get by.
Well, and that in that moment, that line was really weird to me. I thought he was gonna kill her too. He's like, I'm sorry for anyone that's going to have to live without you, because if I can't have you, no one will. I was frightened for her.
My gosh, no, I didn't get that.
No, it was absolutely a romantic gesture, but so much was unknown about how he was. Like, if I was Claire, I would have been afraid to ask him to get the chip upgrade or whatever, because I would be afraid that he wouldn't love her. And so it just scared the crap out of me. That's all.
I can't blame you. Anything else you want to talk about as far as fun stuff?
Yeah, I think that's it. Let's put it this way. There's a lot to talk about, and it's so fun.
Yeah, it really is. We're not going to scratch the surface of this one. So let's move right along, and we'll catch you on the other side.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
So we've come to the part of the show where we explore the big ideas in the episode from unknown graves and discuss the meanings, morals, and messages to see if they align with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy. I think we've got a lot of new listeners, with being season 3, aka New Horizons, and they may not 100% be familiar with why we asked this question. So
I think that's a great point, Mike.
I just kind of wanted to touch base on that. About 10 years ago, Rod Roddenberry commissioned the podcast Mission Log to look at every single episode of Star Trek for for morals, meanings, and messages, and to see if the episodes stand the test of time. And that format was very successful, and we wanted to apply that format to other shows, kind of similar. That are somewhat similar in some ways. The Orville being kind of an obvious fit because there's so much Star Trek DNA in it. The fact that, Andre Bormanis is here and Brandon Braga, and that Marvin Rush was director of photography for the first couple of seasons. And, many Star Trek folks are involved in the production of the show. And that Seth MacFarlane himself is a huge Star Trek fan. We thought that maybe we could take a look at other shows to see if that message got out and kind of made it into other franchises. And we kind of take a look at this to see how closely does it align with kind of that original Star Trek message of diversity, inclusivity, a utopian future, kind of a world where human conflict and prejudice is put behind us when we can just go out there and explore together and understand first, seek to understand people before shooting at them. And that's kind of where I think we landed and why we asked this question. So we're going to ask that question here in a little bit after we talk about some other issues that were key to this episode. So I ask you, Jessica, is lying the best way to build trust?
Yes.
Okay. And are you lying to me now?
Yes.
Are you still lying to me now?
Yes. I confuse myself and everyone else around me.
It's just funny because they were like, how are we gonna build their trust if we have all these men all over the place? And it's like, I have a plan.
Don't know how on earth they thought that would bridge understanding.
Now, this is still a sci-fi comedy, so there is that.
Mike, do you think Picard is pulling this maneuver?
This is not the Picard maneuver. No.
I understand. And maybe I used the wrong word just to be cute. They're not going, let's lie.
Right.
Being said, of course it's a TV show. And I don't care. And it provided a lot of excellent humor.
It did.
It's a really dumb approach.
The humor is good. Now, if we wanted to say, hey, what you should have done was, what they should have done was a lot of different things, but it wouldn't have been as entertaining.
It wouldn't have been.
Say they just send First Officer Grayson, Chief of Security Tala,
our
CMO,
captain is busy.
CMO Claire Finn, and then they just kind of meet like that, and they have a little sidebar, and they drink their Chardonnay, and they have a good time, and they're like, hey, we're all women who rock. You know what else we have on this ship? Men. And instead of active subterfuge, because the bad thing about lying is the truth always comes out anyway.
It does.
It always comes out anyway. You might as well just start there. And I'm not saying that because whatever, I'm some Boy Scout. I'm saying that because I learned that the hard way over and over and over again.
Right.
So now I just kind of I'm too lazy, I'm too old, and I'm just you know what, I'm just going to start here with the truth, and we can,
I think it's also too much mind gymnastics to go, who did I lie to about this, and what am I supposed to not be doing? And but yes, I empathize and share that similarity with you. I was also discouraged from lying at a very early age too.
And I think we all were. It didn't keep us from trying it though.
The fear of hurting somebody, the fear of disobeying my father was enough to make me not lie. I lied one more time in my adolescence, and I paid for it gravely, and I never did it again. So
you had the upgrade with the pain receptors?
I had the upgrade with the pain receptors when I was 16, and I never went back. And it was, and this is what was really great about my dad. I lied once when I was a kid because he told me I had to blow my nose. He goes, "Go blow your nose, go into the bathroom," and I guess I didn't want to stop watching the TV. Mm-hmm. And there was a towel on the edge of the couch, and so
Damn it.
I walked toward the bathroom, ducked down below the couch, rubbed my nose on the towel, waited a second, and came back because I didn't want to miss what was happening on the TV. And my dad said, "Did you go to the bathroom and blow your nose?" Because he knew. And I didn't know he knew. And I said, "Yes." He goes, "Well, you're in trouble now." And so it taught me right away the consequences for my actions. And I never did it again, but then I lied once. And then I said that I was somewhere that I wasn't. And when my mom found out, she wasn't supposed to. My dad sat me down and said, "You're the oldest. I have to punish you. You're not allowed to go on the school trip that you were going to go on tomorrow." And he, it was a big consequence for my actions. But he prepared me for what the consequence would be. And he sat me down, and instead of making me feel horrible, he told me that I earned that, essentially, and also had to set the example for my siblings. It was really interesting. So I never really had lying is not one of those things that is not a personality trait I understand very well. And thus it has actually affected me because of other people lying. I like to believe people.
Right.
So that doesn't mean people haven't lied to me. It doesn't mean I haven't misplaced trust or whatever. I'm a little bit better at letting people earn trust, giving them the benefit of the doubt, etc. But it's been an interesting journey. Lying is one of those really hard things for me to understand.
Yeah,
to put it simply.
I agree with you 100%, and it's a process. We talked a little bit about this before when we were talking about Tala and Lamar. You have people that are interested in a relationship, right? And there's, sometimes there's, you're not physically compatible. Sometimes you're not emotionally compatible. Sometimes you're not geographically compatible, right? There's all these challenges. Can things be overcome? Should they be overcome? When do you know? How do you know?
So, I think my failing with most relationships is the romanticized poems, music, movies, Disney princesses, all that stuff. We really do believe that the magic's supposed to happen and it's supposed to work. And then where a lot of relationships fail, I think, is the working out part. They're figuring out how to make it work because we believe it's just supposed to be natural. Then add to the added issue of now you can just order someone up on Tinder and you don't need to work it out if you don't like that person that you saw for 2 weeks. There's, the availability makes it difficult too. So I could see where people get down and out about how relationships are essentially. But that's a long way to say that when I was trying to come to terms with a relationship that I wanted to work out really bad, but everything was pointing in the direction of it never going to work out, but I was still bullheaded about it. One of my favorite musicians shared a little bit of a book that impacted her, and she put a song behind it, and I started crying, and I was watching this on Instagram, and I was like, oh my god, this is the have you read A Missing Piece by Shel Silverstein?
No, I have not.
So it's just a circle that has a wedge missing, and it's basically the wedge looks like its mouth, and it feels like it's missing a piece of them, and so it's rolling around this earth or the Shel Silverstein world looking for the missing piece. It's a great metaphor for maybe children who feel like there's a depressive element. It's good for adults and it's good for children for different reasons. As an adult, I'm like, well, yeah, of course I'm looking for the piece that fits me. You know what I mean? Because there is some insinuation there in the way the wedge goes into the mouth.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Please expound.
No, I'm good actually. But when two people love each other, another person sits on their face, and so basically this circle with a piece missing finds one that's too big, one that's too little, one that is cold, but is also experiencing things, gets to roll along and sing and meet a butterfly and is experiencing life. Thinks one piece is I thought it was the right piece but held on too tightly and it broke. thought it was a piece held on too lightly and it fell out. All these different metaphors for how they came across different relationships and different ways they ended or moved on. And then finally it found its missing piece. And the missing piece was like, oh my God, yes, this is it. And they're rolling along and they are going 150 miles down the hill and like cooking and like moving through it life. And then the circle starts to try and sing and it can't because its mouth is perfectly full. And so the part of it that was filled with joy wasn't able to be expressed because of the missing piece that was found. And so like part of the story is letting that piece go and go, thank you for the time, see you later. And it's heartbreaking because it's a perfect circle now. But it kind of goes back to it just made me remember when Kelly's like, see what I can do with my eyes. That's a piece of Ed, you know?
Yeah,
I don't know if that relates.
You get that. I think it does. And you get that perfect piece that fits. It's not going to be there forever, sadly.
It never is. That was one of the things that it has brought me comfort is when relationships have ended for emotional reasons or incompatibility or right place, wrong time, or God knows what. Even if I find the right person, I will die or they will die or they will go into a different car. You know what I mean? Like so many different things are out of our control. So it really does speak to ultimately at the end of the day, if you're chill with yourself and not looking to other people to validate you, you actually know when to move on. They tried and they're sad, but they knew that this wasn't going to work. And because they have enough confidence in themselves and enough self-esteem. And
conversely, we have Isaac and Claire that are maybe not perfectly emotionally compatible, but they're making it work.
Right.
They continue to try.
She asked him for compromise, and she compromised.
Right.
But that was born of respect, though, too, Mike.
It sure was. So just a couple of other lines I want to point out because I really want to dig into some stuff before we run too long. I love the quote where Dr. Vilka says the highest function of the biological brain is empathy, your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Timmis can do that now. By the way, I love the fact that his name was Timmis because in the recap, I was able to have, because we don't have a lot of you see Timmy moments on this show, but in the recap, I had probably 10 you see Timmis moments. That was, you see Timmis? So we're able to work that into there a bunch of times.
I love that.
So yeah, that empathy that he was able to bring, that other people could bring, and then the fact that, and here's where, like we've talked about it before. We've talked about whether Data had emotions. We talked about whether Isaac has emotions, and Isaac was like, yeah, I came to the same conclusion that we shouldn't have judged all biologicals based on the fact that the ones in K1's house were jerks. But Isaac said, yeah, I came to the same conclusion. And Tim was like, whoa, really? Because I didn't come to that conclusion until I had emotions. And Isaac's like, whoa, hey, now, I don't have emotions. Like, I can't feel that. And I think that he is in denial. Emotional denial.
Who?
Isaac.
About what?
About having
he
emotions.
Actually has emotions?
So he came to the same conclusion that Timmis did. Timmis needed to have emotions to come to that conclusion. Isaac came to that conclusion on his own.
I think more than anything it highlights that like one of the overarching philosophies when it comes to the diversity and the difficulties we're experiencing in this diverse world is it's really hard to hate something that you know.
Right.
And so he like intellectually knows humans and was able to come to the logical understanding that what they did was wrong.
Fair.
Here's what I'm just cautioning against and curious if this may be where you're coming from. Do you want Isaac to have emotions?
I want to recognize that he can feel, possibly, without being able to demonstrate outwardly those feelings.
Yes, I like that. But I think that's why Claire loves him, because she can read that. He's like the quintessential introvert, is my point.
He is, and it kind of comes down to this. And some people are happy being introverts, and many introverts are somewhere, like many of us, on the autism spectrum. And there are issues that go along with that. One is treatment or not. Isaac, Claire finally comes to the point where she's like, I want to ask Isaac if he should get this treatment. Fair enough, right? Ask him because she wants to be loved. That's very fair. If she were to say, I want you to get this or I'm breaking up with you, that's a little bit more heavy-handed. Because
Yes.
Isaac may like who he is.
Right.
Somebody who is an introvert may like being an introvert. Somebody who's on the autism spectrum may like perfectly where they are, how they are, what their life is like. And to have other people around them pressure them to have that treated so that they would be more quote-unquote normal, I think is unfair.
I would agree.
And I think it kind of reminded me a little bit, not to because we have so much to talk about in this episode we're never going to get to anyway. But in About a Girl, you take a kid who is born with a condition, a malformity, and
As seen incorrectly by others.
And they arrange for this procedure to be done without any input or any consent from the child.
Correct.
And then you have a kid on the spectrum. And there are things like transcranial magnetic stimulation and CRISPR gene splicing and things like that. And they can do things like that to quote-unquote treat or cure, not cure, but treat ASD. And that's maybe being done without the consent or the blessing of the person involved. And it just those kind of two things sort of made a connection in my mind.
Yeah, it's so hard to know what's helpful and what's not helpful, right? We did electrotherapy up until about 70 years ago or 60. Right. We lobotomized people until late 60s and stuff.
Right.
But we also sort of thought we were doing the right thing.
Yeah, and this is we'll only know how history judged these things, but these things have shown some success in kind of taking people with some neurodiversity and making them, act quote unquote normal. And I don't even want to use that word. That's somebody else's word, not mine. But there are more and more folks on the spectrum, and I think Isaac in some ways is a metaphor for somebody that doesn't emote the way the rest of us emote.
Sure.
That could be seen just as Spock, just as Data, just as other folks in the Star Trek universe have been the dude from Guardians of the Galaxy that doesn't understand sarcasm. They all are people that have, in many ways, been recognized as being allegorical to people with autism spectrum issues. So you take these, you wonder about these folks, and you say, okay, Is it a non-normal condition that can be cured, or should they just be accepted as a general kind of normal, diverse group within the human population? And I started thinking this episode actually made me recall an episode of Vice on HBO. They interviewed a guy named John Robison, and I think it's pronounced Robeson actually. And he was given some of these treatments, and all of a sudden, for the first time in his life, he was able to enjoy music because it wasn't so overpowering from a perceptual issue. He was able to interact with people, better. Or differently, I should say. And with that, he was like, okay, I understand. It went away after a short time, just like Isaac's treatment. He goes, but at least I remember what it was like, and I can appreciate what people are trying to do. What he also appreciates is that there are people who have some neurodiversity that are just perfectly happy the way they are. They don't want to be cured. They don't want to be fixed. They don't want to be subjected to anything other than just living out their lives and doing their thing and being awesome and just being considered part of a diverse culture, and that they should
and
not
accepted as such.
And accepted as such. Exactly.
Yeah, I remember you're bringing up such a really important conversation, as opposed to making people get along and fit into this square round peg hole thing. I'd rather do my best to understand someone who has autism and go, how does your brain work? I would love to relate to that. It's not easy. It's not easy to do that. I actually honestly felt that it was unfair to ask Isaac to get the upgrade. I personally felt weird about it, and I think for the exact reasons that you're stating.
Yeah. And he initially said, no, I don't see how this will make my life any better. And that's fair. Fair enough.
Fair, even if you don't know any better, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can make the argument that, like, ignorance is bliss or what have you. Mm-hmm. And he probably does retain some of what that stimulation cost him. You know what I mean? So I'm sure he does know I love Dr. Finn or whatever.
What he said was he doesn't remember the emotions, but he remembered Claire's reactions to them.
Right.
And he was like, so that means that I want to make you happy. I'm willing to do it. And she said, some people would say that sounds a lot like love. And I thought that was awesome.
It's pretty loving.
Yeah.
I don't know what else. Well, again, Finn has a really strong sense of self and can also find her self-worth beyond what Isaac thinks of her.
Oh, yeah. She knows. I mean? She knows she's worth it. And I do want to say that I did quite stumble my way through the autism conversation. I know it is a.
I don't think you did at all.
I was just going to say, I know it's a complex issue. Most of what I was trying to say was by memory from something I saw on Vice on HBO. And you can check that out. It's available on YouTube. But that did make such an impact on me when I saw it a number of years ago that I did go back and hunt it down once I watched this episode.
I know. Let's just put it this way. I know we have so many things to talk about, but I did not think you stumbled through it. I think it's complex. I think when people have children that there's potentially something that they could do to help them, the last thing a parent wants is for their child to suffer. So it's not even a judgment on you shouldn't get your child treatment, you should get you should and you shouldn't, etc. We all would like to do the best we can, and we're all still trying to figure that out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when it comes to somebody that's a little bit different than us, as opposed to changing them, asking them how they experience things and doing your best to be empathetic is the best you can do. Now, the other added issue comes into people that don't have that empathy gene or sociopathic, etc. That's a whole different conversation that wasn't even broached here.
And there are adults now that are organizing and lobbying to be represented as part of a diverse population and have that neurological diversity recognized and, like
respected.
Other conditions, respected and accommodated for.
I would rather live in that world as opposed to, oh, come on, they can't even communicate. I was actually very grateful to be surrounded by a bunch of people who, majority of us were extroverts, so that got us like maybe cast in another show, or you all go out to the bar after or whatever. But by being present and around and easy to talk to, that's a foot in the door. And we had a couple of introverts that knew how to do the ambiverted thing and said, we need to learn how to accommodate those that don't know how to socially acquiesce that way.
Right.
And that was such a huge... That was empathy. That was emotional maturity. That was changing for the better and for others.
Right. Okay, next big topic that I have written down. Males led their people into unnecessary conflicts and suffering. Yeah, Charlie's like, some of ours did too, but we don't judge the entire... I changed it to gender. She didn't want to judge the entire sex. But I hear a lot about how wars are started by men, and there's sort of like overly ego-driven competitional reasons for conflicts, not only close to home but internationally. Do you think, looking at our history, if the Genesi were humans, is there some truth to what they said?
Are you setting me up right now?
I'm not setting you up, because I don't think they're 100% wrong. I really don't. Now, I don't think men should, kind of suffer the same consequences that the Genesi men did. But I do think there's recognition that, in the past, if you look at the last, 10,000 years of, sort of modern-ish, 5,000 years of modern-ish, human civilization, that, a lot of the decisions that cost a lot of people a lot of lives, were made by men.
I will answer it this way. Sarah Silverman tweeted, or was talking on a podcast, I think she was talking to Dax Shepard, and said, when women are inevitably in charge the next time around, or like when we this is, obviously very hyperbolic, she goes, we will have to try very hard not to abuse that power. We will have to keep ourselves in check to not abuse the power. And I think it is power in general. I do think there's some issue. I think there's a couple things that contribute to a warring state, contribute to the angry men in our country that are gun-toting and mass murdering. I think there's some similarities, and I think it's society's failing in acknowledging an actual chemical or chemical reaction in male sex. In the male sex, we have bred our males to be toxic and to be masculine and to not be emotional, and then we don't give them an outlet, and then it turns into.
You think it's bred or conditioned?
I think when I said bred, I meant conditioned.
Okay.
And I'm sure if you're in Sparta, it behooves you to not let your men be emotional, and let them believe that there's camaraderie and you die for your brother. I can't give you the argument as to what the chicken and the egg is that caused wars to begin with. Mostly just feeling threatened and who knows what, probably some big misunderstanding over eggs. So what my point is now, when the necessity for getting a bunch of men onto the battlefield and just letting them die in order to rid the country of this toxic masculinity thing, we have a bunch of males that don't know what to do with themselves, that are feeling disenfranchised in this world, and we're told that they're not allowed to feel emotional about it. So, and it's a broad stroke. It's complicated even when you take into consideration you might be born male, but you're actually female. There's so many different aspects of it. But we are seeing, I think one of our major failures as a society is not encouraging men to be multidimensional. And I think men and women did that with their sons and daughters. And so as a society moving forward, as opposed to vilifying and going, men did this, they're bad, they're all bad, or that toxic masculinity. And don't get me wrong, those are words I'm using. Again, bridging understanding, bridging empathy, I think will get us to a better place. Because I think women could abuse some things too, but in a very different way. Or females, I should say.
And I think you're right. And I think just continuing to evolve and learn and try to become your better self is the answer in the long run. And you mentioned that, when women are in charge next time around, they're going to have to check themselves because that absolute power corrupts absolutely, which is the same thing I thought of as soon as they gave, as soon as they gave Dad that remote control, man, to control the pain receptors. All of a sudden, it was that and Timmis alluded to this, that the punishments got more harsh, they got more cynical, they learned to hate us more with that absolute power that they got from that button on the remote control. And Dr. Vilka said something interesting when she said the master finds the slave's helplessness repulsive, even though I think she said it's common in slavery that the master finds the slave's helplessness repulsive, even when they were the one to cause it.
Welfare
That
resentment
sounds
is another way.
horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, what an not even an allegory, this is an analogy for, not analogy's wrong, just a different version of how we committed slavery and treated people in the past.
Yeah.
And how some people still believe that this is what the world is. We're looking at another cultural, civic, civil rights issue. We treat Latinos in this country like third-class citizens, and just because they get a little bit of money for the majority of the jobs they do, that does not mean they're being treated as equal.
Right.
It's sickening to know that this is human nature to some extent. Is when you have taken care of something, you resent that thing, and when the state takes care of you, you resent the state. If your mother is taking you in, you resent her. This pride thing is really wild, man. It's wild.
It really is. And that reminds me of a quote. I think it was in Caprica, but one of our listeners, please, just let me know what it was from, where they said every great civilization was built on the backs of a disposable workforce. Mm-hmm. And it is that line has always stuck with me as being chilling.
I don't know what the morals is out of that, except
just
for it's the obvious that
just something to think about. But and I'm trying to find a place for hey, Kelly cheated. You guys cheat on your husbands. Like that's the place to start. Negotiations. Like was it simple as that? Is there more to it than that? Like that was enough to get the Genesi to listen to the.
Was it that? She was able to trust Ed? Wasn't it that?
Yes, it was Ed, but Ed was trustworthy, is what they said.
Let's put it this way.
Okay, so yes, put it that way.
I wouldn't have made the jump that they did to find common ground. I cheated on you.
Yeah,
I did not jump to that. I think they really made it work somehow, but that's not where my brain went first.
I mean, she even said, she was like, I'm reading through their stuff, and it says that while, Genesi men have to be faithful, the women don't.
Right.
And they were like, oh, we got that in common. And then then she was like, I cheated on Ed. And they were like, yeah, we all cheat on our husbands.
Right.
So,
I guess I don't know. I don't know what we learned here today, folks.
I don't. Yeah, that one escapes me. Please let us know what we learned. But I did love this part. And we just touched on it a couple of minutes ago when Isaac said, look, I'll give up everything. I'll give up all my memories. I'll do everything. I'll get this upgrade. Hopefully my new experiences will get me to fall back in love with you, and then we'll be there. Aww. And Claire said, you would give up everything that you are, everything you've been, everything you remember, all your experiences for me. Some people would call that love. And I just wanted to touch on the lyrics just from the first part of the song, Close Enough for Love by Johnny Mandel. You and I, an unmatched pair, took the time to touch and to share. Worlds apart the night we met. We braved the odds and won the bet. Not perfect yet, but close enough for love. Just the music in this show just continues to blow me away.
Yeah, nothing is without some thought in it. So I think now's a great time to think about what morals, messages, and meanings came up for you, and if they align with the Roddenberry Star Trek philosophy. What do you think, Mike?
Well, I think the show definitely holds up to that level. We've got Kaylon trying to understand the biologicals. We got Charlie Burke, listening to Timmis and getting a new understanding, I'd say, for their plight, for the realization that they were revolting against their slave owners, finding mutual understanding, finding common ground, and being able to coexist. I mean, I think that's the best tradition of good, Roddenberry era Star Trek.
Yeah, I would fully agree. I think they did such a good job too in not just putting Charlie Burke in a situation where you have to like this person, and we got her to finally see some empathy. She she lived the arc of what Timus did, and she showed the example of what empathy can do. They don't have to be best friends, but she can empathize.
Yeah, and they weren't yucking it up at the end. They weren't joking. They weren't, elbowing each other in the ribs or anything. They were peacefully, happily working together to tech the tech at the end of the episode. And I don't mean so Timus and Isaac and Charlie.
No, yeah. It's so hard to eat crow on things sometimes, and I thought she ate crow pretty nice, and it was a beautiful moment to see Isaac go, oh, this was an opportunity. I'm going to turn around and invite her.
So this was the list of things that I wrote down that I wanted to talk about on this show. Okay. Slavery, prejudice, sexism, carbon chauvinism, which is kind of a mission log term where you only kind of value carbon life forms and not artificial intelligence and those kind of things.
Interesting.
Dealing with physical and emotional incompatibility in relationships, the treatment of autism spectrum disorder, valuing neurodiversity, the accountability that corporations have that we haven't even talked about this, have or don't have when a product proves to be dangerous to put on the market, like the Ford Pinto and things like that, and I'll leave it at that because I want to. Strip mining, the Navarians, I guess their little relationship with the Bruidians, this was before that, so they strip mined the planet and left. And those were all things that I had on my list to talk about from this episodes. Light, just light
cotton candy, popcorn,
comedy, sci-fi. Yes, Family Guy in space, everybody.
Amazing.
But don't judge all the Kalan. Don't judge all the Mocklins. Don't judge by gender. Maybe just don't judge people before you meet them. Kind of don't prejudge people. There should be a word for prejudging people, and you should not do that.
I don't understand what you're saying, and then because of that, I'm really judging you.
Okay, well, fair enough. But you are judgy.
I am. That's so true.
Yeah. So what I miss, or what do you have?
No, I think you got it. I think you got it. I think it takes a lot of skill to be able to get us to think about so many things and still laugh really well.
And the and just a masterful job by David A. Goodman for writing this, for Seth directing it, for everybody being in here. But the final thing I landed on, Jessica, and I remind myself this every day after 20 years of marriage: love doesn't have to be perfect; it just has to be close enough for love.
Okay, get us out of here.
Mission Log of the Orville is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Technical production by the interplanetary prairie dog Earl Green. Our website and your opportunity to comment and connect with us is podcast.roddenberry.com.
Join us next time on Mission Log of the Orville as we discuss Midnight Blue. This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.